Hello, so today's video is a perfume tag. I've not actually been tagged, but I saw this idea on somebody else's channel and I just thought it looked like so much fun that I wanted to have a go myself. So the idea is that you have 30 different categories and you allocate one fragrance from your collection to each of the 30 categories without repeating the same fragrance. It's quite strategic. So this video was not originally a tag, it was originally just a video by Gani. I'm going to link her channel down below alongside the channel on which I saw this tag done. So Viaje Aromático, so Carmen's channel. And I'm also going to tag a few people to keep this going. So I'm going to tag Tammy at Tammy Roxanne, Karen at New Day New Scent, and also Lizzie at Rose and Jones. So no pressure at all, but if you aren't tagged, then feel free to do this tag. I'd love to see more people doing it. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire. I talk all about fragrance on this channel. I'm really just a scientist who has this as a hobby. I don't do this for anything other than fun. So if you do want to come along with me on my journey through fragrance, then feel free to subscribe. And also, if you do enjoy this video, then please press the like button. So let's get on with this. What's the first category? So the first category is vanilla, and I'm going to choose Merchant of Venice's Andalusian Soul. So this is a vanilla that's quite unusual for me. I tend to go for darker, deeper, more resinous feeling vanillas. And this one's quite a creamy vanilla. It's quite reminiscent of something like a vanilla ice cream almost. Alongside that, there's rum and also some powdery yellow florals. I just find this one incredibly addictive. I bought this back in December and I got a bit obsessed in January. But yeah, this one has been a hit. So it's Andalusian Soul by Merchant of Venice. So next up is rose, and you may have seen that I've just done an entire video about the rose fragrances in my collection and my favourite roses. But this one is really my most rose. This is Chopard Love. So if you look at the notes, there's lots of different types of rose listed in this fragrance, but really this comes off as a Middle Eastern style rose fragrance. It's quite a dry feeling rose alongside some slight spices, also some sweetness, and then some patchouli. It's a very deep, dark red rose, a velvety rose. So that's Chopard Love. So the next category is Oud, and I don't have too many oud fragrances in my collection. I think a lot of people perhaps don't know how real oud smells, probably including me, because oud is just so expensive in fragrance. It's something that is really very rarely used, and if it is listed, it's usually created from other ingredients rather than actual oud. But the fragrance I have in my collection that I think might actually have some real oud in it is Guerlain's Aqua Allegoria Oud Yuzu. So I just bought a partial of this. And this fragrance is just the most unusual combination of oud and yuzu. You really get a nice sort of soft feeling citrus in the opening. It's sort of almost reminiscent of a neroli perhaps. And then you get the sort of charred wood effect, almost like a charcoal kind of smell in the dry down. It sounds really odd, but it just works. And I really love wearing this one, sort of, early spring, even in the evenings in the summer. It's just such a strikingly different combination. I bought this because I was recommended it by a subscriber, Christina, and I never thought I would enjoy this as much as I have done. I've nearly finished my partial bottle now. And yeah, really like this one. Oud Yuzu by Guerlain. So next up is Gourmand, and I think I'm unusual in the fact that I like very kind of rich feeling gourmands, like a British dessert, something very traditional feeling, something like a sticky toffee pudding. That's really the dessert that I usually pick if I'm in a restaurant. So this one always makes me think of sticky toffee puddings. So this one is Chelsea Morning by Lush. And that's really the reason I love this one. It makes me think of maple syrup. It makes me think of ginger biscuits. It's got a lovely kind of citrusy, lemony opening. But yeah, it's just so rich. It's like a corked sugar kind of smell, just like a sticky toffee pudding. It makes me think of bonfire night. It makes me think of cinder toffee. It's just my whole childhood wrapped up in a gourmand fragrance. So that is Lush's Chelsea Morning. Next is honey, and I'm going to choose my scent of the day, which is Oud Perfume. So this fragrance is honey, but it's not a sticky honey. It's more of a very rich honey, and it just amps up all the white florals in this fragrance. So there's orange blossom, and there's also jasmine here, and it makes the flowers almost feel more realistic. It's a very solar, bright, golden feeling fragrance, and the honey really adds to that. So that's Oud Perfume. So next up is the category of citrus, and this one is Grenado's Citrus Basilis. So this one was gifted to me by Grenado, but if you don't have this one, or if you haven't smelt this one, then one I think is really similar is Hermès's Le Jardin de Montsouris. If you've smelt that one, then imagine that fragrance but with more orange, and you're pretty much there. So this is a kumquat fragrance. That's always a bit of a duality between orange and lemon, but I think this one definitely leans more towards orange. It's very soft feeling, and it's also got a lovely kind of greenness and some jasmine here. It's watery. That's the beauty of this fragrance. It's very kind of dewy feeling. I think a lot of citrus fragrances on the market either have ambroxan in them, which puts me straight off, or they have a very grainy feeling musk, which also puts me off. And this one has neither of those things, and that's why I love this one. So that's Citrus Basilis by Grenado. So next up is your all-season fragrance. And I always think that woody vanillas work all year round, so I'm going to pick one of those. So my choice here is Metal Wave by All Saints. So this was a complete bargain fragrance. I think I picked this bottle up for £10. And I would say actually the All Saints range is pretty good, especially the older fragrances from the range. I think this one is just the most beautiful kind of green, slightly woody vanilla. It smells a little bit pencil shavings like, actually. I would compare this one to things like Diptyque's Eau Dwell. It's in that kind of same scent profile. So that's Metal Wave by All Saints. So next is Tuberose. I'm definitely going to go off piste here because this one I don't think does have tuberose listed as a note, but I definitely smell it here. So this is more traditionally thought of as a jasmine fragrance, and it's Amouage's Portrayal. So this has both white florals really, and they're very realistic. They're very big and loud. It's jasmine and tuberose on steroids, most especially the jasmine, but definitely also the tuberose. And there's also just this lovely kind of tea-like resinous feel with this fragrance, alongside a beautiful vanilla in the dry down and a touch of tobacco, which makes this so interesting. I think people get scared by the tobacco note here, but it's really, really gentle. So that's Amouage's Portrayal. So next up is spring, and I'm going to choose one of my absolute favourite fragrances from Guerlain, and this one always makes me think of spring because of its colour. So this one is Insolence by Guerlain. So this is a purple fragrance through and through, and you know, with spring you always think of purple because you go walking in the woods, you see some bluebells, you look out in your garden, you'll see wisteria, go for another walk and you'll see some lilacs. It's just a very purple feeling season. This is a fruity, powdery feeling, very sweet violet fragrance alongside just a very powdery feeling dry down. There's not too much more to say about this one, just it's amazing projection, amazing longevity, just the most perfect spring fragrance, Insolence by Guerlain. So next is summer, and I'm going to choose Martha by Memo. So this is a very solar feeling floral. It's tuberose, ylang ylang, and also orange blossom. And the orange blossom here feels quite green. It's also got this kind of watery aspect to it, alongside some sandalwood and also some vanilla. And that makes this fragrance smell almost a little bit coconutty. I don't think coconut is actually listed, but that's definitely how it comes off to me. Just a really creamy feeling, but also fresh and watery, but also a coconutty fragrance, perfect for summer. But I also really like wearing this one in the winter. I think wearing a really summery, sunny feeling fragrance can really cheer you up in the winter. So this one's also great for winter. That's Memo Martha. So next, predictably, is autumn, and I'm going to pick a blackberry fragrance. So this is Gucci Guilty Absolute Pour Femme. And this one is the most realistic smelling blackberry fragrance I've smelt. It's very dark feeling, it's very foresty, and there's also a deep red rose in this fragrance too. It always makes me think of Little Red Riding Hood because of the woodiness, because of the berries. I absolutely love blackberries, I love blackberry crumble, and this one just makes me think of gathering blackberries. It's just so autumnal to me. So that's Gucci Guilty Absolute Pour Femme. So for winter, I'm going to choose Mabel Arama's Phoenix Flame. This is a very unexpected fragrance. I never expected, looking at the notes of this, that I would love this. I was gifted this by Mabel Arama, and I was honestly a little bit worried that this would be her first fragrance that I wouldn't enjoy. And I actually really love this one. It's just the most stunning combination of sumac and also some resins and some cardamom. And the cardamom gives it a slight sparkle, but the sumac gives it a lot of heat. If you haven't smelt sumac, it's almost a little bit smoky feeling alongside a bit of a lemony aspect, and also just a real richness. It's quite fiery. I just think this one really fulfills the brief of the name, and it's also just incredibly wearable, which I didn't expect from a fragrance with sumac listed. So that's Phoenix Flame by Mabel Arama. So next up is musk, and I think I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten track again, and I'm going to choose Alien by Thierry Mugler. So this is the vintage version of this fragrance. And to me, the vintage version has a beautiful dark musk. I always think of dark musks as if you imagine something like an ink spreading on water, that kind of swirling, dark feeling that you get from dark musks is what I get with this fragrance. And really, I think most people would think of this fragrance as just a jasmine fragrance, or if they've smelt the modern version, they might think of perhaps a slight soapiness to this fragrance. And they might think of the cashmere, and they might think of the density, but really for me, it's all about the dry down. It's all about the dark musk, as well as that stunning menthol jasmine in the opening. So that's Alien by Thierry Mugler. So next is a tropical fragrance, and I'm going to pick a raw and untamed tropical fragrance. This one is Moon Palace by Karen Timpson. This always makes me think of being in a humid setting, so something like a greenhouse or perhaps like a rainforest. I've never been to a rainforest, but I imagine they're quite humid. So that hot, heavy air. And there's also a bit of a palm leaf or green banana kind of smell to this. And I think that's also partially down to the ylang-ylang here. There's also tuberose as well, giving this a real richness and just that sort of feeling of the petals of the flowers almost, alongside some resins and then a really dark, mysterious feeling musk again. This one just always takes me to somewhere tropical but untamed. It's a raw, untamed kind of fragrance. So that's Moon Palace by Karen Timpson. So next up is sexy, and sexy is an odd kind of category to have for fragrances sometimes, but I think this one just really stands out as sexy in my collection, along perhaps with another fragrance that I would consider to be its sister. So I would think of Bouquet Encore by Oud Perfume as the niche version of this fragrance, but this one is Givenchy L'Instant Rouge. And I always get compliments on this one whenever I wear it. It's just such a striking feeling fragrance. It's again tuberose, but there's definitely some heat here. This also just has the most creamy feeling sandalwood and also creamy feeling, I think, to me at least, vanilla, although it's not listed. Just a stunning fragrance that leaves an enormous trail as well. So that's L'Instant Rouge by Givenchy. So next up, the complete opposite, an easy to wear fragrance. I'm going to pick Coach EDP. So this one is one I often wear to work, and this is a really sparkly, light feeling rose. There's some raspberry here, and that's what gives this fragrance that sweet sparkle, alongside a pink or red feeling rose. It's sort of in between the two. And then there's also some suede and some musk in the dry down, just to add a little bit of interest to make this a slightly more distinctive fragrance. But yeah, it's that lovely sparkly opening that I absolutely love about this fragrance. So that's Coach EDP. Next up is the prettiest bottle in your collection. So I'm going to choose Lolita Lempicka's Lolita Lempicka. This is the EDP. I also have the EDT. And I specifically sought out the vintage version of this fragrance because not only did I want the fragrance itself, but I also wanted the vintage bottle because I loved the design of it. And at the time they had that weird angled bottle as the current version of Lolita Lempicka. I think they've actually brought back this old bottle design now, so it's much more obtainable. But I think this design just stands out. It's so different and it makes the fragrance just feel ever more whimsical. That's Lolita Lempicka EDP. So next is a beast mode fragrance, and I don't have too many beast mode fragrances in my collection. I'm not someone who wants to knock people out with my fragrance generally, but I think this one's quite unusual in the fact that it's quite a light and sparkly fragrance, but it still is very, very powerful. So this one is Angel Nova by Mugler. So this is a biche fragrance, so you're expecting something quite powerful, I think, always with Quentin Biche. And this one is raspberry, rose and lychee. So it's sparkly, it's bright, it's almost fizzy with akagala wood. And really this just has a real power to it. It's something that really does fill a room, does leave a trail. So yeah, that's Angel Nova by Mugler. So next is Oriental, or some people might term this category spiced ambers. And I'm going to choose Chanel's Cocoa. So this one is a fragrance that I love to wear in the winter. It's just a very cozy feeling fragrance to me. It really helped me to appreciate spices in fragrances. I think this is a fragrance that I couldn't imagine myself wearing at one point in my life, and now it's something that I really embrace. I love the powdery feeling amber here. I love the spices, and I love that almost fruity feeling resinous aspect to this fragrance alongside the animalic purr. Just a standout fragrance from Chanel, something that is very impactful. So that's Coco by Chanel. So next up is feminine, and I do sometimes struggle with gendering what are essentially smells, but for this category I'm going to try and play along. So I think for this category I'm looking for something independent, strong and intelligent feeling. So I'm going to choose Balenciaga Paris. So this one always strikes me as a little bit aloof, a little bit independent feeling. It's quite a cold fragrance. It's a cold, powdery violet leaf fragrance. But I remember the first time I tried this, I thought it was the most stunningly beautiful fragrance that I'd ever smelled. It's really a fragrance that makes me think of weddings. I think this would have been my wedding fragrance had I actually discovered this one earlier on. I think this fragrance just shines to me as something that isn't seeking attention, but it's just something that you know, if it was a person, it would be a person that just had a magnetic personality, or, you know, had something to say always. Somebody who just shines as somebody you want to know. So that's Balenciaga Paris. So next up is romantic, and I think your idea of romantic fragrances is going to differ depending upon your scent experiences. The fragrances in your collection that you associate with romance are going to be the ones that you tended to wear when you just first felt that feeling of love, I guess. And the fragrance that I'm going to choose for that is Lola by Marc Jacobs. This is a fragrance that was actually my signature back in my 20s and was originally bought for me by my now husband. It's just a jammy feeling rose, really, but it just takes me back to that time and that feeling of first being in love. So that's Lola by Marc Jacobs. So next is Femme Fatale, and I'm going to pick Nina Ricci L'Extase Rose Absolue. So this fragrance is along similar lines as Oud Satin Mood, same perfumer. These fragrances are often compared, so if you haven't tried this one, then if you've tried Oud Satin Mood, you kind of know where I'm going with this. It's a purple feeling velvety rose. It's very rich, it's almost smoky feeling, and there's also some resins here, and then there's also a lovely woodiness to this fragrance as well. But the woodiness comes off as almost oudy here, but it's definitely a dark feeling rose. It's a mysterious and seductive kind of fragrance. That's my Femme Fatale fragrance, Nina Ricci L'Extase Rose Absolue. Next is an inspired by fragrance, and I'm going to pick Il Viaje by Pocket Scents. So this one is supposedly inspired by Creed's Virgin Island Water. I actually prefer this one to Virgin Island Water. It's creamier and it's longer lasting. So that is Il Viaje by Pocket Scents. So next up is a woody fragrance, and I'm going to choose Stash by SJP. This is again one of my cheapest fragrances, and it's really one of the best woody fragrances I've tried. It's very distinctive because of the creaminess here. Creamy woody fragrances are quite unusual to smell, and especially with cedar wood. I think here it's the Massoya wood that's giving it that real creaminess, and it's also amped up by the resins here. I think this just stands out because of that really distinctive dry down that smells almost like a toasted coconut. Just a stunning celebrity fragrance. That is SJP's Stash. So next is dark, and I'm going to choose a fragrance that I don't often wear, but when I do, I really enjoy it. I tend to wear this one when I'm going out and it's winter time, and I know I'm going to be out for a significant period of time because this leaves an enormous trail. So this one is Tom Ford's Black Orchid. So this is a dark gothic fairy tale kind of fragrance. Again, this is something that really is very much an earthy fragrance. The truffly aspect of this fragrance really comes through, and I think that's part of what puts a lot of people off this one. But I think if you do like that, this is really a stunning example of this kind of genre. I think also the thing that comes through here is that duality with the chocolatey gourmand aspect of this fragrance alongside that fantasy black orchid note of the florals. The piercingly haunting florals in this fragrance as well make this fragrance just such an interesting contrast. And it's so distinctive. It's something that if you smell it, you know it's black orchid. So that's Tom Ford's Black Orchid. So next up is amber, and I don't think we could go past this category without mentioning the most famous amber of all, which is Shalimar. And this is the L'Essence Flanker. I think this is just the friendlier version of Shalimar, the more modern version, the more easy to digest version of Shalimar. I really like this one. I love the powderiness of it. I love the vanilla. I love the amber. And also I really enjoy that slight smokiness still that they've retained in this fragrance alongside that very mild leatheriness. Just a really beautiful version of Shalimar. So that's Shalimar L'Essence. So next up is a Christmas fragrance, and I think there are lots of fragrances that I feel excited to wear at Christmas, but a lot of them are based around spices. So I'm going to pick my spiciest, most intense, most Christmassy fragrance, and this one is Kenzo Jungle L'Elephant. So the exciting thing here is the cold and the warm spices, alongside that lovely powdery feeling amber and patchouli, that slight sort of almost fruity but not quite vanilla. And it just is a fragrance that I get excited to wear around Christmas time. It always makes me think of Christmas, I think, just because of those very distinctive spices. So that's Kenzo Jungle L'Elephant. So next is iconic, and I'm going to choose a fragrance that I think could be considered iconic now. It's been on the market for 24 years, and this one is Dior's Addict. So I picked this one up quite recently because I wanted to experience it in the older formulation. I know it's being reformulated this year, and I also really want to compare with the modern version. I want to see what the differences are. So this one is really a booming feeling, deep, very rich feeling vanilla fragrance. It's slightly green, and it also has a lovely creaminess in the dry down with some sandalwood, and of course it has that very distinctive feeling, very strong feeling jasmine. I think this one just has a bit of a spice to it. It's almost a spicy kick as part of the jasmine almost. It's also been reformulated a number of times over its 24-year history other than just this year. So it was first launched in 2002, it was then reformulated in 2012, and then I have the 2014 version, and of course it's been reformulated again this year. But yeah, I'm just interested to smell the differences. So that's Dior Addict. So the next category is beach, and I'm going to choose Tom Ford's Orchid Soleil. So yes, this fragrance is a bright feeling, solar, rich floral fragrance. It's got lily, and there's also some tuberose here. It's a very golden feeling fragrance that really smells like this bottle looks. It is sun-kissed, and it also has the most delicious chestnutty, vanilla, creamy dry down to it as well. It does always make me think of golden skin on a beach. It's just the epitome of a summer kind of fragrance, a summer floral fragrance. So that is Tom Ford's Orchid Soleil. So the final category is a fragrance for bed, and the one that I've been reaching for most over the winter time and into the springtime has been Jupe Le Bain. So this is a powdery, resinous feeling tonka vanilla fragrance, and that's a typical wear for me in bed, really, a vanilla kind of fragrance. I think I love this one because it's got a slight vintage edge to it. It's got some aldehydes, which really makes this very interesting, but also it's a very cozy, enveloping, warming kind of fragrance, which is perfect when it's cold outside and you want to feel cozy and snug in bed. I just think this one's very relaxing. Definitely not one to overspray in bed though, because it's something that really does project. It's quite a loud fragrance. This is a 1 or 2 spray bedtime fragrance. That is Jupe Le Bain. So that's the final fragrance in this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, then please do press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please do let me know what your own choices would be for some of the categories featured in this video. Do you agree with some of my choices? Have you tried any of the fragrances that I've featured in this video? I'd love to know your thoughts on that. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.